And then we started having problems with hikes in prices of basic commodities. And then recently, we import rice, but we start seeing other countries putting moratorium on the rice exports. And the way that's permeating. Meanwhile, we sit on vast land that we know is arable with good ecologies that we can make change. Now, all of those crises, they are heightened globally. In my view, the food insecurity problem. And I think there have been assessments by key partners, FAO and other international agencies that are interested in what happened in the sector. So heighten that in our country, this is a problem. So leaders must give vision where they know they can transform the state, and engaging the feed salon is a laudable agenda. Now, from the Ministry of Finance point of view, we have a key role. And we believe that despite this, and we have, our role is in, I'll just call it four major components. One, the budget we allocate from our own resources. Second, the effort we make at exploring financing mechanisms that can help the ministry get the punch it has to have. And in third, what do you do to ensure that the empowerment for agricultural investment is friendly to the attract foreign capital, but also deepen and encourage our international partners to join us in bringing mostly the effort to the VC sector itself. So let me just shed light on each and every one of these aspects that I see. So from the Ministry of Finance point of view, we are strong partners with the Ministry of Agriculture. And we've been providing resources, but not only agriculture, the other sectors that are tied to agriculture. And we use our tax resources to be able to support them. Now, but what we've been providing over the years, I don't think speaks to the punch that we need, is needed. We've been providing just about 2 point some, about percentage of our budget to the sector. You're not going to be able to make a difference. You are not going to be able to make a difference. There are international commitments that I think we have signed on to as a country, like the Maputo Accord, Internation, which is really pushing countries to ensure that they allocate 10% of their national budget to agriculture. In our discussions at the Economic Management meeting, there was a strong push from the Minister of Agriculture for us to make a meaning to the presidential policy. I've had deep reflections on this, looking at the other commitments that we have made, especially on human capital development, and which we will not renege on because it's not something we can substitute. But however, to be able to support it in a smart way that is being couched by His Excellency. And if you want to push human capital development, one of the three strands has to be feeding people, because that's where it stands. So, to reinforce all of that, we are committed to ensuring that the government really make a conscious increase in the public expenditure on agriculture and pursue the 10% share of budget. Government pursue very policy. But the pursuit will be demonstrated by this year a minimum directly from the public budget, a minimum directly to the Ministry of Agriculture, 100% bump in the budget allocation. But I must make this very clear, and Dr. Yukela actually just pointed to it. The agenda is Feed Sierra Leone. It's an integrated approach of not only core Ministry of Agriculture interventions, but there are enablers to that. Okay, so if to Feed Sierra Leone there are enablers, we should be able to catalog or account very effectively for our expenditures on those enablers and be able to demonstrate that this 10% is an achievable goal. Okay, so energy, roads, feeder roads, bridges that are sitting in the domain of other sectors will have to be fully accounted for to ensure that we can demonstrate 10% contribution. And on exploring financing mechanism, it will happen on two fronts. The Ministry of Finance, in our discussions, and this was spearheaded by deeper policy talks by the Ministry of Agriculture, and then guidance from the Economic Management Team chaired by His Excellency, that we are going to establish an initiative which is an agriculture fund for the country. That will sit at the Bank of Sierra Leone, and we did fund the election through on our taxes. That is a standing statutory authority given to specifically allocate a defined amount that is predictable to fund the initiative of the sector. So when we are holding that 10% of the amount, and we'll have a statutory pronouncement of a reasonable amount of the weekly collection of revenues into the fund. So I think that's laudable. The size of the amount will be determined to match the allocation in the budget for the year, so that the Ministry of Agriculture is assured. I understand that the agricultural activities are time-bound, and if you miss on any one, that year is gone. So we don't want, we have to give value to the pronouncements on Salone and ensure that we are on track on achieving all the objectives that have been put there and the activities to be clear. They have to be assured that these resources can be disbursed on time. And you can only disburse from the public cost on time. But the government will not do this alone. The private sector has a key role to play. And so we are thinking through structured funding mechanisms. Okay? And this, basically, you have to ensure that the government, through its own resources, whether through institutional reorganization, will be able to attract international partners by coming through. What am I talking about here? The structured finance will ensure that agribusiness, agri-enterprises, they are given funds to be able to ensure that they can provide input and other production operations. We will establish a guarantee scheme as a government, an agricultural guarantee scheme. Now, the government, through international partner engagements, cannot guarantee just by itself, okay, because you don't want to encumber the reserves of the central bank. Okay, so that's why we have a moratorium of just giving blanket guarantees out there. However, if you set up a special scheme that can provide guarantees, special guarantees, be guarantees for the agricultural sector to access private capital, then you'll be able to ensure that people go out and mobilize resources on the back of that guarantee fund. Okay, but your reserve has to be protected. So I think that's something that we are going to introduce. We'll find a way of providing the seed capital that is reasonable enough to ensure that we can partially guarantee and attract foreign direct investment into the sector at some scale. So that's something we are thinking about, and I think we'll get that into the budget speech and finance budget speech in the coming months. The Finance Act, we've discussed rice. We import 200 million on average per year. We dwindle the reserves because when you import rice, you're using foreign exchange. But when you import, you're selling in Leone. And when you want to import again, you have to go either to our commercial banks or hit the reserves of the central bank to bring in. We're helping other farmers in other countries. So, and then we have not been taxing, not the least, of rice, but that did not stop the price of rice to go up. So we will be thinking of introducing import duties on rice importation, but the fund thereof will be directly put into the agricultural fund to support the feed sector. National Revenue Authority is the sole entity that supports the Ministry of Finance's delegated responsibility to mobilize resources to support the interest of the state. We've been working with them in introducing policy measures, enhancing the tax environment. Now, we're very conscious that if you're going to be attracting the private sector, you have to have incentives that allow them for investment purposes to have friendly investment incentives. We'll be doing a lot of improvements on ensuring that we raise the taxes to support these initiatives that I've talked about. And so we are enhancing digitization. You will see that on many tax levers to do what? HE did say when he took power, he was going to block the holes. You only block the holes in tax collection when you remove human hands from the monies that you collect. So we introducing digital systems for excise taxes, digital way of knowing turnovers of companies, digital ways of knowing what we do on mobile calls. We are not increasing taxes, but we are actually introducing systems that will tell us that this is what is due you. Okay, but when we go and leave it to, we're doing a self-assessment system in Sierra Leone, but you need to have a system that can allow you to do what? Audit that self-assessment. And it's only digital system that will allow us to do that. So we are introducing those. And we'll create a very predictable, because the government has introduced, we have actually approved a medium-term strategy for taxation, so that we allow companies to be able to project very easily into the future what taxes are expected, so that they can plan themselves properly. This will also be very good for the agricultural sector or those who are interested in investing in it. I'll go very fast. Now, I have two more things to talk about. The enabling environment for the investors to come in. We've been doing a lot of reforms to attract these. We know there are many investors who want to come and invest in the agricultural sector. One main issue is that you have to prepare the space for them. You must de-risk the ecologies. And we have discussed how to de-risk the ecologies. If we have several ecologies for specific types of agricultural production. So the directive that is being given to us from the team is that for all the interventions that we are going to be doing, those interventions must be geared towards investing in ecologies to de-risk them such that they are well prepared for big-scale interventions. So I'll give you an example. We have to ensure that we plan ecological zones like, let's say, Tomago, the road to go there, electricity systems that are needed there, the irrigation system that is needed there, the land at scale that must be provided free and unencumbered to allow an investor to bring in its money. Now, if you're able to do that as a state, when you want to attract a private investor who is a big agricultural investor that has capital, technology, and knowledge to invest and work with us, they have to be assured that getting all of these things have been done in the risk by the public sector. Okay, so HE wants us to work with energy, water systems, works, roads, and public assets. All of these agencies, PPP structures, all of these agencies that are out there ensure that we prepare these ecologies ready to attract foreign investors to come in. So this is the environment that we are trying to create, enabling for that. Our partners in the international system are good. They've been a major player in the sector beyond our budget. World Bank, ADB, EU systems, all of this, ISDP, they've been the ones. So I will close here that with all of these measures, it is an opportunity for us to support the Ministry of Agriculture to deliver on the President's vision, flagship vision on feed Sierra Leone, among several others that we have out there. And we are inviting you to work with us, support us, to ensure that we deliver on this pronouncement that has been done. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the Minister of Finance. Minister Parker, I truly believe you when you told me that you're a friend of the Minister of Finance. It's all good news for us today. It's all good news. I cannot say more. Thank you very much. So at this stage, we are going to talk about our big, bold, ambitious plan. The Minister of Agriculture and Food Security is now going to make this strategy visible to life. You're invited, sir.
Thank you, yes. His Excellency, President, Honorable Vice President, the Honorable Chief Minister, the Chairman for the Presidential Initiative on Energy, Climate and Food Security, senior members of the Office of the President, Honorable Ministers, Deputy Ministers, their Presidents, members of the Consular and Diplomatic Corps, heads of delegation, foreign partners, senior members of government, PSCs, the private sector, the heads of agencies under the Ministry of Agriculture, our farmers, staff, good morning. Let me take this opportunity to, first of all, thank you for being here, for filling up this room. I hear we ran out of space. For me, this is an indication of you responding to His Excellency's call to us all to join hands together and do our best to feed dearly and hopefully. At the outset, I want to really thank you already for the input that we have gotten in the development of this strategy. We've spent about 2 months now. I think in August we said it was strategy month, and it spilled over into September and we're in October, and we're still fine-tuning. In this process, we've talked to farmers, we've gone to the field, we've engaged partners, including the ones in this room, private sector, and I want to give a special thanks to the residence coordinator for collecting really detailed feedback that we had received when presented to the agricultural sector donor working group. We really appreciate those. Some of them you will see factored in here. What I'm about to present is a very high-level strategy, direction of travel for the next 5 years and for 2024 that shapes how Feed Salone, how we implement His Excellency's vision for making Sierra Leone food sovereign. It's a document at this stage that has strategic pillars that we will develop, fine-tune and develop proposals for specific investment under those pillars so that when we hit the ground running, there are fine details and we can achieve the results. Next slide. Let me motivate the presentation by this. I think we've all seen by now the multiple crises, the impact it's had on all facets of our lives really, but especially food cost of living. It's done so in such a way that it's limited what governments can do, it's limited how our partners can respond, and their responses in many cases have been very nationalistic, insular in a way, and that has left places like Sierra Leone vacate, and having the resolve, as the president has done, that we too, we must try very hard to feed ourselves, because if our neighbors are saying, we're not going to import to you, we're going to put this tariff, this duty, then we are at their mercy. And so this picture is clear to all. And so there is no better time for Sierra Leone to embark in a very big and bold way in transforming agriculture and in the food systems in the country. I think we do it. We will create jobs. We will solve multiple problems that we face. We will grow the economy and make sure a number of goals in the SDG we've covered. Next slide. We all know these numbers. Sierra Leone is a place with enormous potential in agriculture. The Minister of Finance has said it. You will hear from His Excellency who highlights some of these potential. I think now potential is not a thing people eat. People have been saying this quite a lot. And so we're done thinking about potential. We want to transform this into food that we eat, into jobs that people have, into income that people can send their kids to school safe. Those are the goals and objectives that we have for our agriculture sector. The plan we've put forward builds on a number of plans, proposals, and activities His Excellency has supported already in the last 5 years. We have taken some bold steps to transform service delivery in agriculture over the last 5 years by making sure it's not a government-led approach, but it's a private sector-led approach, where we, in the input system for seeds, we made sure it's the private sector that took lead. And fertilizer, we created a credit facility for private sector to be able to access these and meet the market demand. We did score some points these periods. In 2021, 2022 harvesting season, we did see a 22% bump in the production of rice. This really sort of introduced some dynamism in the space for us and has laid the foundation for what we now want to do with the Feed Salone program. So, again, the Feed Salone program is really the President's vision. It's a response to this call to make Sierra Leone food secure, food sovereign, create jobs, employment, and income for people that are linked to the sector. It responds and touches on, as the resident coordinator said, a number, if not all, of the SDGs. And for the Big Five, the President's Big Five game changers, it has interconnections with all of them, as we heard from representative from the Minister of Fisheries. So the objectives, this is a plan that responds directly. It's very intentional at some of the long-standing challenges we've had in the food systems in the country. The Minister of Finance mentioned this. We import a lot of what we eat. This program, this plan, will respond directly and attempt to reduce importation of rice, poultry products, onions. We want to do this. When we put all the plans in place and the funding and the policy, we believe every year we can reduce this by 25%. We want to be able to increase export earnings from the sector. I think the cocoa value chain is one where we're getting a lot of success these days. We want to do that even bigger, and we want to include other value chains. We want to make sure job creation, especially for youth and women in rural areas, to revitalize these places, that's done from agriculture. We believe we can increase formal jobs in these areas through having agro-industrial zones and clusters and reduce youth joblessness, which is a problem we're facing. Hunger and malnutrition is a big challenge. The BFP and some of our partners in this room can tell us that close to 1.2 billion people in this country are acutely food insecure. Our goal is to begin to have that by the time we're through with this program. Sustainability is a key part of this. Resilience. We want to make sure, even as we have all these bold goals, that our food system, that agriculture is linked and make sure that we're not only feeding ourselves today, but future generation. With all these high-level strategic objectives, we have targeted specific value chains that we'll invest in so that we're seeing impact very quickly. Next slide. The strategy itself rests on 6 pillars. 1, we will emphasize mechanization and irrigation. We've got about 5.4 million hectares of land, and only 15% of that is put under cultivation. If we're going to feed ourselves, we need to rapidly put more of that under cultivation. Irrigation, even though Sierra Leone has a lot of land, a lot of rainfall, irrigation is one that can allow us to cultivate multiple times a year. Seeds and input system. Not too long ago, maybe a week ago or so, we had the foremost experts in seed systems on the continent here in Sierra Leone hosting the Seed Business Summit. They were here to provide a roadmap for us as we are embarking on this Feed Salone program. From there we learned, no matter what we do, if we don't fix the seed systems or the key value chains that we care about, we will make very little progress. So we will prioritize that from research to the system to deliver that, to extension to make sure farmers understand the technologies that are in their hands. Aggregation, processing, and market linkages. Processing is very key, I think. On a number of value chains, we know we lose already 40% post-harvest. If you're losing 40% post-harvest, part of what we can do is reduce that. If we can stop that, if we cut that into half, by the way, that means we've already boosted productivity by 20%. That alone can give us a level. So we will emphasize that. Those linkages to market as well. So our strategy will make sure we're not just producing, but we're linking to processing and market. So there is a pool for the produce that farmers are producing. Agriculture finance. We've had this everywhere. My 3rd week on the job, I met with all the heads of commercial banks in Sierra Leone. I tried talking to them. I said, why don't you lend to the agriculture sector? Actually, this is a very strange notion to them because a lot of them didn't know how to do it. They said, we don't know how to price this. We don't know what to do with this because for them, the terms are very short. They know they have a ready market that they can go to and get their monies back and to invest and lend to farmers is a big risk. I listened to them. They had some valid challenges, which is why we want to design credit facility that is fit for farmers, both large and small. We tried this. We tried this 2 years ago. We set up a $10 million credit facility to encourage private sector, primarily in the seeds and fertilizer, to import and give to smaller farmers. We didn't exhaust all the money, but all the private sector people that took the money paid back, and smallholder farmers received the input on time, which is a different thing. So we will build on that. We've heard the cry that climate change is one thing that we have to contend with, even as we move on this plan. So we will use agricultural technology to make sure that we are getting information and data to farmers, from farmers, learn and see what's happening in the fields to inform decision making in the sector. And obviously, women and youth. We know in Sierra Leone, in the food systems and agriculture, that women bear the most burden, get the least benefit. We want to reverse that. We want women to be able to get a lot of benefits for the efforts that they are putting in. I've mentioned youth. Tremendous joblessness among youth. His Excellency has a goal to provide jobs for 500,000 youth by the next 5 years. we believe a lot of that can come from agriculture. And so, under each of these pillars, we are going to have signature initiatives that will drive this. Some of them will start next year. When His Excellency finally launches this program, he will announce some of these initiatives that we already have monies for and that are planned to kickstart. Let me quickly run through some. So for irrigation and mechanization, we're aiming for the mechanization class, 73,000 hectares of land in IBS and Boli areas. For irrigation, our goal is to do, within the next 5 years, 30,000 hectares. We have funding to do some of that already starting next year. We want to increase the availability of tractors in the space. For input and seed systems, we have passed in the last government the Act for slurry, which revitalizes the research system to position them to support the policies of the ministry. We will speed up the implementation of that so that they are supporting research and outputs that are coming. We won't shy away from using technology in this drive because we think we should try everything that we have. So hybrid seeds, we will try them and we will make sure we have a system so that we're not dependent. For cash crop, we'll focus on clonal gardens for these and expand organic production for cocoa especially because we know it's very attractive and we're doing well in that space. For marketing and processing, I think a leading initiative that we're going to push is institutional feeding. Then we feed the military, the police, boarding schools. All of that we think is in our hands to be able to make sure the food that goes to them comes from Sierra Leone. We produce them here. We know infrastructure is a key challenge the minister mentions in the Honorable Minister of Finance. This plan, and perhaps that's where the 10% comes from, in this year. Because if you support roads leading to, and we'll indicate some of those, if you support roads leading to production centers and have power plants in those, that benefits agriculture and the rest of the economy. And we can count that as 10% towards agriculture. I mentioned loss, reducing post-harvest loss, and then we will build a strategic grade reserve as we are boosting production. For financing, the Minister of Finance already mentioned the credit guarantee scheme. I think part of a lot of what we want to do, and I'll expand on this a little, is have a system to de-risk private sector investment. This plan makes provision for that. I already mentioned the credit facility that we set up, and we're hoping to repeat that as well in this plan. Digitalization of value chains for organic cocoa. I think if we're able to grow that, expand that, and make sure people know indeed our products are organic, we get premium price for the e-extension, reaching farmers quickly and cheaply, and in near real time. That helps in our decision making. And we will hope for youth that we will create a youth entrepreneurship fund. This is one where we look to the youth, we engage them, and they tell us what they want to do. We help them develop plans, and we link them to financing source because we know that's a key challenge that they have. This plan will make provision for that as well. We already have about a $2.4 million grant from ISDB through the UNDP to support women in post-harvest loss handling starting next year. And so we have all these in the plan, specific initiatives that we do. I mentioned infrastructure. These are ecologies that just, for rice, where we think the infrastructure that we create will be intentional in these specific areas. These are just examples, just for the rice. We do one for other value chains. We will demarcate, okay, in this area we need this kilometer of road, that kilometer of road, linking these production centers to the nearest tarmac road. Because I think if we do that, we'll revitalize those areas to be able to attract investment in them. I apologize, you're not going to see this, but the headline here is this. this cost, which by the way is very modest, for the next 5 years for this program is about $1.6 billion. For 2024, the program we have set will cost about $257 million. We have, and thanks to a lot of the people in this room, resources already towards some of this. Up to $140 million, I think we have secured, and we will channel some of these specific initiatives. There is a gap, and I think that's where some of the conversation that the Minister of Finance mentioned. I think you heard the Minister clearly that we will work and make sure in this strategic period, we will get 10% minimum coming to agriculture. And I think we can do that even starting next year if we invest in this infrastructure. Next slide. So how are we going to close that gap? We've got government resources, partners. The next really is the private sector. And this is, the chart there is, this is from World Bank. This is FDI as a percentage of GDP from Sierra Leone. About 6%, in absolute terms, maybe $250 million by 2022. Next slide. This is actually not bad. That's Sierra Leone, Ghana, Liberia, and Guinea. As a percentage of GDP, we're getting more FDI. What we must do is how we channel this in the agriculture sector. And as government, we've got their resources and we've got policy. Policy is the other tool government has to be able to drive this. And on that front, we're going to leave no stone unturned. Every policy that is going to make it attractive for people to invest here, for people to find the need and the incentive to grow their own food to feed themselves, we will make. Next slide. So, our landlords, we're going to make sure amenable for attractive investments in the agriculture sector, both locally and internationally. We will make sure private sector that are already importing food that we participate in the value chain. We will create policies and incentives to encourage them to do so. And we'll work with development partners in the IFIs in this room to de-risk private sector investment. We are already in conversation with African Development Bank through the compact process to be able to implement just that. We now have the NIB. We think they will be a critical partner in helping us and putting at the fore of their promotion efforts agriculture. Next slide. So, finally, we're very lucky in this room today that His Excellency decided that agriculture will be the flagship for the next 5 years. I think this is, and his commitment to the sector, this is a massive asset that we must ride on. I think in addition to that commitment, to that clear vision, is partnership. Which is why we think it's the partnership for the delivery of the Freetown program. We need partnership among MDAs so that there's coherence. NGOs, civil society, development partners here in IFIs. And we need partnership and close collaboration with the private sector, with the farmers at the center of all of it. In Africa we say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I like this, but His Excellency wants us to go fast as well. So what we must do is go together very fast. And so I thank you for answering to His Presidency's call, to His Excellency's call, and I look forward to the deliberations we're going to have. We will hear from him momentarily. He's better at talking on these issues than any one of us. And that's really going to get us going and make sure we are on a path for feeding Sierra Leone. I thank you all.
Great delivery. Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the Honorable Minister. A big, bold plan. When he read through it looked effortless. But I tell you, because I know there has been so much work that went into the speech that was presented here today. And he's already talked about the many people, many partners, the ministry staff, the friends of the ministry, Ministry of Finance. Everybody came on board to have this big, bold document, and it will serve us for the next 5 years. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Henry Musa. Thank you. You know, it becomes a generational thing that over so many years, over a generation period, you have a leadership that comes to the stage, a transformational leadership comes and changes things for the better. Our president veered into education, conquered education, stabilized our urban educational system, and today the world recognizes him for that. We talk about the educational system today. Sierra Leone is highlighted. I have an aspirational feeling that in the next couple of weeks, months, we'll be talking about agriculture in Sierra Leone. With a minister like Mr. Bangura, we're going to get there. The support for agriculture is palpable. Thank you very much. We will celebrate as a country the transformational leader we have. And he will talk to us today about his initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a one-time opportunity and pleasure to invite His Excellency the President.
Everybody's excited because we are talking about food. I hope we had some before we came here. And we are going to get more after here. Amen. And 5 years later, we will be food secure. I bought into this vision because this is not the panacea or the silver bullet, I would call it. But we have a problem of unemployment. We have the youth bulge. We are not food secure. And that has been exacerbated by what is happening in Ukraine. We need to grow our economy. After having started with education in 2018, now I think that we can have agriculture to deal with the rest of the other problems. Unemployment, food insecurity, and also economic growth. That is why the body. The Honorable Vice President, ministers, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, the United Nations Resident Coordinator, heads of missions and delegations, my chairman, Presidential Initiative, Climate Change, Renewable Energy, and Food Security. We've been talking quite a lot and moving all over the place. Our farmers and other key stakeholders in the agriculture sector, civil society, NGOs, private sector representatives, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I hope it is still morning. also develop with pride and dignity. We cannot be begging for our basic food with the land that we have, with the rainfall that we have. It is not dignified, Sierra Leone. I have always said that we have no business importing rice into Sierra Leone. There is no reason for our nation to be a net food importer when our country is richly blessed with abundant land, with water resources, ample sunshine, and accessible labor force. We have been too lazy. We must change this narrative. For a very long time, we say agriculture has been the mainstay of our economy, accounting for an average of 51% of GDP, especially over the last decade, and employs approximately 65% of the labor force, but mainly in subsistence farming. We have to change all of this. While we possess high agricultural potential, we do not feed on potential. Agriculture, yields, and labor productivity have been very, very low, partially due to huge infrastructural bottlenecks and financing gaps. And already alluded to the gaps in infrastructure and financing. And this is where we want our partners to come on board. We are ready to work, as we have done for education, where we launched in August, on August 20th, 2018. Now we have over 1 million kids in school, new. And now this year we have produced over 137,000 kids that have passed clearly to go to university. We have done great things in education, and we can do great things to feed ourselves, employ ourselves, and stimulate economic growth. And provide jobs for our kids. The youth board should not be a force. It should be a blessing. But it can only be a blessing if we invest in our youth. Now, we have invested in basic education, and today we have 137 kids who are ready to go into university. I don't even have that space in all my universities and higher institutions of education. That is how determined we were, and that is how limited we have been in terms of resources to make provisions for them. But I've challenged my Minister of Technical and Higher Education to work with the universities and other institutions to provide space for them. We have to be educated, to be a meaningful part of the 21st century, and to even undertake the fifth salon that we are talking about. Interruptions in the international system, especially the food chain due to COVID-19 pandemic and the prevailing war in Ukraine, as we all know, coupled with other global crises, especially the inflation that is imported, definitely continue to take a toll on our economy. Our people are suffering the pinch. There is no way out of this. We have to find a way to deal with that. This has led to increasing costs for food in Sierra Leone, as we all know. And that affects the living condition of our people. If food is unaffordable for the least of our people, then this is a serious problem. My reaction to this is feed Salone. As dark as these challenges are, we must see them as opportunities too. And that is why my reaction has been that I cannot have such rainfall and land, available arable land, and complain about food prices. Sierra Leone, we must produce our own food. The persistent economic headwinds and collapse of the community crisis facing low-income countries like ours is a challenge, but also an opportunity to diversify. So we are diversifying now. Since the advent of gold and diamond, we left the agricultural fields and went into the holes. We've been mining for the past close to 100 years, and some people are still to account for destroying our environment, because there is nothing to show for all that we say we claim to have. For me, there is no better sector to diversify than agriculture. Accelerating investment in agriculture, we add greater value to the economy, expand foreign exchange earning, significantly reduce imports, drive down inflation, so higher productivity and food production, and create decent jobs, especially for our youth, which I have alluded to already. Ladies and gentlemen, Sierra Leone must learn from the Asian countries, which rapidly expanded public investment in the agricultural sector to achieve the Green Revolution. We must invest in agriculture. We must invest in agriculture. We are doing our bit as a government in terms of the policy environment, the incentives to prime investment, to invite the private sector. We must fundamentally change the way we look at agriculture. For a very long time, agriculture has been treated as a development activity. The social sector has been treated as a sector for managing poverty. Yes, whenever there is a picture of a farmer with a poor, old-looking, miserable man or woman, I want to be the picture. I think I can feed this population in here with the fish that I have contributed to the market. For 1 month, I can feed all of you with fish. I have enough rice to take care of all of you here for 1 year. And I want to be an example. No more should we display pictures of miserable-looking men and women as symbols of agriculture. I want to particularly from my Minister of Youth Affairs. He has a great fish farming project in this country, worthy of emulation. Worthy of emulation. If we can just replicate that in all the districts, I tell you, we have enough fish, and we will not need the Ministry of Marine Resources. They have to go at the sea. When I'm ready for my fish, I go into my pond, get the tilapia. If I want tilapia today, I eat tilapia. I'm not going to eat snapper when I want to eat tilapia. And I have catfish and other things. So I have a choice. It's not frozen. I have to freeze it if I want to, but I can have raw fish. And that is what we want to do. We will encourage the Ministry of Marine Resources for economic purposes. but we are not going to kill that sector. But I just want to encourage us all to do something better. I want us to look at agriculture as a wealth-creating sector. And until and unless all of us seated here can make agriculture profitable to the ordinary man or woman, it's not going to work. We all are looking for benefit. If I cannot make profit out of anything, I'm not going to continue to do it. So, our responsibility, our development partners, we cannot do this alone. Help us make agriculture profitable for the ordinary man or woman. Over 60% of our population is involved in agriculture. They are not in the city here, and they are the ones we are in business for. A government exists for those people. Once we make agriculture profitable for them, we would have taken care of broad-based economic development. We can stimulate growth. But they will never continue to do the traditional agriculture they're doing, the old methods, technologies, and using the same old inputs the seeds they're using. So our business is to make sure we provide all of that for them, at least for the beginning. Once they start making money, they will be running after us for more seeds and more things so that they can do more. Over 70% of our population live in the rural areas and depend on agriculture for their living. Their pathway out of poverty, as I've said, is through agriculture. And therefore, making agriculture a wealth-creating sector will unleash the economic opportunities to lift our people out of poverty. Poverty alleviation has been on our lips for the past 20, 30, 40 years. The true pathway to that is actually through agriculture. So in line with my government's human capital development drive for sustainable economic growth, we are prioritizing investment in agriculture through Salone program, which will receive up to 10% according to the finance minister. Of our national budget allocation over the next 5 years. I believe that Salone will ignite the agricultural productivity, safeguard food security, foster inclusive economic growth, and therefore lay the foundation for sustainable prosperity. I truly believe in this. I visited Vietnam 2 years ago, and they have used agriculture as the mainstay, and it has stimulated serious economic growth. Ladies and gentlemen, we have gold, we have every other thing, but I want us to go back to basics. The land. If we truly love the land that we love, we must steal this land to get out of poverty. We must steal the land and not just dig and destroy it, degrade it for diamonds and gold. And let's steal it to feed ourselves, to employ ourselves, and stimulate economic growth. In my first term, we prioritize innovative strategies to improve agriculture and food security. We prioritize increasing productivity in the rice value chain and expanding our investment in mechanization, as the minister said earlier. We enacted sound public policy to stimulate sound private sector investment. The government primarily at that time focused on de-risking investment, the investment space, while supporting enabling environment for private sector players to participate. The private sector has not seen this space or has not regarded this space as a lucrative space. We are luring them to come into the space. We have to do the necessary policy arrangements, create the incentives and everything, because government is not going to do the farming for everyone. While we create the space for big investors to come in, we also care for small farmers who must be provided with the wherewithal so that they can continue to produce. They have been a great part of the sector, feeding us, and we need to increase their capacity. To this end, my government created the 10 million agriculture facility that was to stimulate private sector participation in importing and distributing fertilizer, seed production, and other agrochemicals. We established the mechanization centers to put more arable land under cultivation. While principally done on a pilot basis, these policy sheets produce positive outcomes. We increased mid-rice production significantly and improved our self-sufficiency from 47% in 2019 to 65% in 2022. We must now turn our rural areas from areas of economic misery to economic prosperity zones. We must not shy away from the rural areas. Those of us who have made Freetown a permanent seat. Only 15% of 5.4 million hectares of land is under cultivation. We are cramped up in the city and our land is fallow. And yet we cry, we don't have food. It is too expensive. As I speak, it's been raining for the past 6 months and it still rains from time to time. We have no reason to grumble about prices. We should produce our own food. We should feed and develop. This requires transformation of the agriculture sector. At the core of this must be rapid agricultural industrialization. We must focus not only on primary production, but on developing agricultural value chains. The Salone program, which encapsulates our vision for sustainable agricultural transformation, we build on these gains and scale up investment to foster food security and sovereignty. As I celebrate Independence Day on the 27th every year, I want to celebrate food sovereignty. That is better for us. Let this generation of leaders and Sierra-Leoneans and our development partners make it possible for us to also celebrate Food Sovereignty Day, when we know we can produce enough and to export, to employ, and to create economic activity. The Salone initiative has 5 specific goals. 1, to reduce importation of our key staple foods, including rice, onion, and poultry products. 2, to boost export earning from our cash crops like cocoa, coffee, cashew nuts, and other things. 3, to create jobs and rejuvenate the rural areas, using agriculture as the driver of new growth, jobs, and wealth creation. The 4th is to reduce hunger and malnutrition. A hungry man is an angry man. Even the women, when they are hungry, they are angry. 5th, being resilient to economic shocks. Women are even more angry when they are hungry. Ultimately, my government will aim to build a resilient economy from the ground up with agriculture at the core of this whole process. Our vision is to take advantage of our soil wealth, grow agriculture as a business, as I've said, in a climate-friendly way, and leverage it as a fundamental source of national prosperity. This will inspire citizens, especially the youth, to see agriculture as a profitable and sustainable business. The Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security will lead the formulation and implementation of the Feed Salone Transformation Agenda, with the overarching objective to improve agricultural productivity, food security, and sovereignty considerably. The newly created Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy, and Food Security, headed by my brother, Dr. Kande Yonkela, we support the ministries in these three work streams for coherence of policy and effective implementation coordination. I will also establish a Presidential Council on Agriculture that I will chair. The Presidential Council that I will chair will constitute ministries, departments, and agencies, private sector, farmers, academia, research institutions, civil society, and also our farmers to oversee the successful implementation of the Feed Salone program. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you should permit me now to convey some of my aspirations for the Feed Salone program for your consideration during the roundtable discussion that will be taking place when I leave. First, the Feed Salone program should not be about producing, not just be about producing more food. We must also ensure good nutrition. This is because our people still suffer from high levels of malnutrition and stunting, and many children die every year from malnutrition, which is a silent killer. Nothing breaks my heart more than a mother unable to harm hungry babies to rumbling, hollow stomach. Poor nutrition is responsible for stunting children's growth, harming children's educational development, and limiting future economic prospects. Stunting children today lead to stunted economies tomorrow. Therefore, the most important infrastructure we must build is grey matter infrastructure. Grey matter infrastructure, which powers the brain and all human capabilities. That was why we started with education. But even when you teach, a hungry child never captures what you say. Even the teacher, when hungry, is angry all the time and cannot teach very well. A hungry teacher is a bad teacher. We must focus on curbing malnutrition as we scale up our school feeding program under the Human Capital Development Programs. Second, experiences from successful agricultural transformations in other countries show that they were achieved through strong partnerships between government and the private sector, which I've spoken about. Therefore, we must commit to strengthening the legal and regulatory framework to create an enabling environment to promote private sector involvement throughout the agricultural value chain. The government will rely on private sector to drive innovation, growth, and large-scale sustainable impact. The reality is, government resources put together with development partners won't be enough to address the challenges we face in the agriculture sector. Resources from the private sector will be required to achieve our goals. But as we all know, the private sector, they are profit-driven. So our business with our development partners, as I've said earlier, is to create that enabling environment, the necessary public expenditure that needs to go into it to make it profitable for them. We would have extended the hand of invitation to the private sector. In fact, I will tell you they will be streaming to the point that we have to control them if we really create the enabling environment. Once they see the opportunities, the bank will start to relocate in Tomabo and Mambolo. Everybody will be moving there. So we have to create this. There's also a key need for strong public-private partnership to get younger entrepreneurs into the agricultural sector. Young people face serious problems in terms of access to affordable capital to venture into agriculture. And it is our duty to make sure that we open the doors for them and give them the opportunity. If we give them the opportunity, as the minister said earlier, we provided 10 million, although not all of that was used. But for all the people, normally people who are engaged in agriculture are honest people. That is my position. They don't believe in the shortcuts to make wealth. When you see them going to the bush, they're tilling and doing that, it's because they believe that they have to earn what they use. And therefore, even the young people who are around or who are involved, there are quite a lot of them are involved in agriculture. And I've met quite a lot of women, in during my campaign that are involved in agriculture. All they need is support, guidance, and this is what we have to do. I saw the biggest onion I've ever seen in Falaba. Yes, I've seen so many things, agricultural products, but they are limited in terms of the capital. The third thing is Freetown initiative must address specific challenges facing women farmers. That's the voice I like to hear. Because they form the majority of labor force in agriculture but lack access to land rights. When we get the issue of women's rights in agriculture, we finally get agriculture Israeli right. We have to get it right for women if we have to be able to succeed in agriculture. The fourth thing is we must leverage available and new technologies to scale up and transform key value chains in the agricultural sector. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are available technologies that can help transform our landscape. We have to go for those. We must seek to foster public-private partnerships, linking government, national, regional, international agricultural research centers, the private sector, and farmers. That link must be created. And lastly, to succeed, we must support the farmers to adapt to climate change. We are at the receiving end of climate change. We contribute less than 30% of global greenhouse gases emissions, but we suffer disproportionately. But the world is a village, so we have to find a way to adapt, to mitigate, and we must get our own agriculture, instill or build in resilience into our agricultural revolution that we are about to embark. We must reorientate our policy reforms to target climate-resilient agricultural development and value chains and invest heavily in climate-smart agriculture, mechanization, and technologies to unlock the full potential for agriculture. Interestingly, agriculture is another culprit for climate change. So, the earlier we recognize that and make sure our agricultural activities are smart, the better they are for our global commitments, but also for what we are said we can do. The key outcome of this roundtable is to provide stakeholders with a thorough comprehension of the Salone initiative, highlighting its objectives, strategic pillars, enablers, and underlying institutional frameworks. A shared understanding ensures cohesive efforts and alignment across all the entities involved. There has to be an alignment, not only within government, but also with our development partners. And are very crucial to what we are about to embark on. As we deliberate under the theme Partnerships for the Delivery of Salone Agenda, I leave you with a quote from late Kofi Annan, and I quote, "No single individual, group, or government can take the monumental challenge alone. We must," he continues, "have the vision to work together." This is what I'm seeking today. This is the vision. I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Can someone switch back to ladies and gentlemen? Another round of applause for the excellent. Now you know the source of the Be Bold initiative. By the grace of God, we're going to pull this through. God is on our side. Thank you very much, His Excellency. Just be reminded, those of you who satirize pictures of farmers, now you know who to publish. responses.
This the presentation will be made by Policy President. Minister of Agriculture, and also to talk on agriculture, agricultural disparity. We want now the development partners to be a brief. Statement. We now call on the EU rep.
Your Excellency, President Julius Mario, the Honorable Vice President, please allow me to turn on existing protocol. I would like to start by saying that I'm very happy that agricultural transformation is a priority on Sierra Leone's policy agenda to meet the challenges of food and nutrition security, climate change, youth unemployment, and overall growth. Let me reassure you that the European Union remains fully committed to pursuing its efforts to support Sierra Leone in that endeavor. Sierra Leone has a significant, as was said at several occasions, smallholder farmers play a vital role in the agricultural sector. Successful agricultural transformation in Sierra Leone will very much hinge on the empowerment of smallholders by providing them with opportunities to take advantage, to move from subsistence to semi-commercial farming, thanks to secured market opportunities. In order to attract this type of agribusiness investment, a conducive business environment is crucial. The European Union has provided support both in relation to improving the country's business environment and in helping smallholders in addressing their specific challenges. We intend to continue to provide this kind of, and for inviting the European Union to this important event.
Thank you very much for this response. We now also call on the Africa Development Bank
thank you very much, Your Excellency, the President, Vice President, and all protocol observers. I just want to assure the commitment of the African Development Bank in supporting the Fit Salone agenda. In African Development Bank, we have what is called High Five. And one of the High Fives is called Fit Africa, supporting the Fit Salone. So the 50% will not be business as usual. It will be very different. We are going to use that financing to de-risk. I think this has been raised a lot. So we are going to explore the guarantee mechanism in the bank. We have what is called partial risk guarantee, partial credit guarantee, to bring in private sector and de-risk. So I think once we bring it as business, and if it is business, we have to think as business. And I'm happy that the government is going to develop the guarantee scheme, which I think is very key. So I think from the African development perspective, we are going to focus agriculture from private sector perspective. And also I think his Excellency raised the issue of having a farmer with torn cloth. I remember when I was in school, part of the requirements, you're supposed to go with a hoe. So if you make any mistake, any mischievous, you are going to the farm. So what happened is the youth had this negative perspective that farming is punishment. So currently I'm from Tanzania, so the Minister of Agriculture decided to remove that concept. So they developed what is called business, build better tomorrow, BBT. So BBT is actually bringing youth into agriculture. And what they did, the first myth is to tell the teachers not to use agriculture as punishment, to encourage you. Secondly, what they did is to do the migrant crisis, all of them moving to Dar es Salaam. So the government provided land for the youth. So they trained them and then gave them the land, and then the youth used the land to get loans from the bank as collateral, and also the government provided seeds and everything. So I think now what happened is the young population can go. Other thing is to also harmonize between different government agencies. Like we need to do business differently. So I know with the Minister of Agriculture there was a request to develop a public sector unit. I think Minister of Finance has a public sector unit, but I think this responsibility should be given to NIB. Because NIB should be a one-stop shop whereby all private investors, including agriculture, should go, and then the enabling environment incentive will be provided there. So I think development partners can probably rally to empower NIB. I'll give an example. I used to work in Uganda. So in Uganda, they approached NIB and said, okay, we used to be very big in the road sector. So they requested us not to build roads leading to nowhere, but to build roads connected to the tourism sites. And that really helped. It actually brought tourism, like, it helped because if you don't have infrastructure harmonized, if you're in the energy sector, road, ensure that the roads go to the ecological zone where the minister promised that they are going to be like an EPC. So I think that's one. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
We now from Ifa to make a statement.
Excellencies, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Honorable Vice President, Honorable Chief Minister, Excellencies Ministers, Parliament, local authorities, development partners, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me and for IFAD to be part of this roundtable on this fifth Salone strategy event. This can be no better time of the prioritization of agriculture, especially when the world is experiencing the food security and climate change challenges. IFAD is a better partner for the government since a time ago. And we intend to deepen that partnership in the years to come along these lines of the Fifth Salone program. IFAD has been providing support to the government of Sierra Leone in the areas of this program, especially in investing in the key value chains as rice, palm oil, cocoa, and vegetables. Vegetables, especially in the north, when we have an example of 100 women in the Federation with their own slogan like women empowerment and men support. This is very important for the women empowerment. We invest also in the rural roads. Yes, we know this is very important for the market ranges. We invest also, especially in the rural finance, to increase the financial inclusion through the establishment of the rural banks and financial associations in the country. It's about more than 56 banks and rural financing in the country. It's very, very important to reduce the poverty and to increase the income and also to transform agriculture in this country. So I advocate that in the financing, inclusion and development for this Fifth Salone, we can build on this enormous and great investment in this country. We are here also to support the government to start investing in the livestock sector. We are trying to have a feasibility study so that next year we come here with you and the government and to elaborate a pilot project in the livestock sector. It's a kind of orphan sector, but I take this opportunity to ask that all the partners can come together and to support this sector. Excellencies, I'm so happy to lead this donor group sector in agriculture. It's very important milestone to support this Fifth Salone implementation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think we now call on the Chinese ambassador to make a response. All right. Okay. We call on Yusuf.
Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, and Vice President of the stand on existing protocol. USAID is very, very grateful for the opportunity to join this very wonderful celebration of a work that entailed, of course, all of the sectors that are so important in achieving food security and food sovereignty in Sierra Leone. And USAID is honored to be able to play its part. I was especially grateful for the President's description of the challenges that the country faces in achieving this. My other colleagues in the development partner sector, of course, have also done a lot to engage in the promotion of this strategy. We're all poised to look at it together and see how we can leverage each other's relative contributions to strengthen access to capital, build human capacity, pilot new approaches. I think the element of malnutrition is something that was extremely resonant for me personally, coming from 4 years in Nigeria, where we did have an opportunity to invest in a multi-sector nutrition strategy for that huge country and learn some lessons that I'm sure we'll be able to bring to the table for the Sierra Leoneans to consider in their own context. I think in terms of the initiatives that USAID specifically could attribute to this, to align with this strategy, I think many of them are procurement sensitive, so I won't be able to go into a great deal of description of them. But I will say that they are reflecting our USAID's global approach to attracting the private sector, called the Global Development Alliance. And the Global Development Alliance is basically getting U.S. taxpayers' money, maybe $1 million, and trying to leverage 10 to 20 million from private sectors partners. And that has worked in many countries to attract foreign extra investment dollars beyond what the U.S. taxpayer is bringing to the country. So we'll be talking more about that. I think the idea that was advocated by my colleague from the ADB for a National Investment Board sounds like a very practical idea. I think USA would probably want to align itself with that type of an idea for efficiency's sake. Finally, I will just congratulate again the President and the government for a strategy that really does help the partners like us figure out where we can best help. And we are committed and delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now call on Mr. Ahmed Nana to talk on behalf of Qatar.
His Excellency, the President, Vice President, I stand on existing protocol to speak on behalf of the territory. His Excellency, I'm very grateful and happy to be here too. And to also thank you for at least launching the feed ceremony. And above all, we've also heightened the private sector to be the lead of the feed ceremony. In honesty, no country has ever developed without agriculture. And in the agriculture sector, you could all have been free, which is why we are here. To told a lie. That Sierra Leone, the private sector intervention in agriculture, very low. And so in Sierra Leone, I'm here to assure you, your ministers and your government and development partners, as the lead of the Chamber of Agriculture, as a private sector umbrella body in Sierra Leone, that will support Feed Sierra Leone to make sure that Sierra Leone produces food in Sierra Leone. We feed ourselves in the short term, in the medium term. We try to export and achieve import substitution. I'm also very much grateful that you mentioned a lot of incentive that will go to the private sector and that will attack the private sector. But much more, we want to see how best we do the Sierra Leone, the local private sector, how we can work with the local private sector, the Sierra Leone private sector to be able to invest and support the Sierra Leone. So I'm very much grateful for that. But I mean, Honorable Mr. President, one thing that I would want to make clear to you, and I would want to doff my hat to you for, is that you love agriculture. I can remember vividly when you came back to Sierra Leone, you opened a company called Tropical Farm, and you became a member of the chamber, an active member. You are the first person that brought what we call today invest in the cocoa sector and started producing, working with farmers in the form of contract farming, producing high quality cocoa and exporting to the EU market. Today, the Sierra Leone organic cocoa is one of the known cocoa that has a big market. You did extremely very well on that, and we are also happy that the cocoa is part of this Feed Sierra Leone, and the chamber will work on this to make sure that we make it better. So the final thing that I would also want to say here is basically has to do with supporting the private sector, skills development. Skills are key, soft and hard skills. You know, I'm happy that the education program that you have supported to the human capital development is ongoing. But we should be able to work with the universities for us to be able to produce skills people that can work with the private sector to be able to lower our cost and ensure that we support the success of this. I want to thank you and thank the Honorable Minister, Dr. Kande Mikela, thank him as well. And thank all the development partners. We are strongly behind you and we will support you and we will ensure that this program succeeds. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Finally, in Sierra Leone, we have over 60 to 70% of work being done in the farm. They are being done by women. And for the very first time in the history of Sierra Leone, in that of Africa, we have the first female president, woman president, for the National Federation of Farmers in Sierra Leone. On that note, it is my pleasure to formally call on Madam Yata Sama, President of the National Federation of Farmers of Sierra Leone, to come and make our response. We are here for the farmers.
Particularly the rural farmers. His Excellency Dr. Julius Mada Bio, the Vice President Dr. Jude Jallo, Chief Minister, Minister of Agriculture, vibrant, very active, young, dynamic, young Minister, Deputy Ministers of the Ministry of Agriculture, Dr. Kane Yonkela, technical team of the Ministry of Agriculture, donors present here, civil society representatives, farmers, particularly our female farmers present here today, the fourth estate, all protocols observed. On behalf of the farmers of Sierra Leone, we are the voice of the voiceless. We speak on behalf of the farmers of Sierra Leone. As His Excellency rightly said, they've been referred to as being the poorest of the poor, always in tattered dresses, no good drinking water, no food to sustain them and their families, because when we talk about food sustaining, then we mean you eat 3 times a day. That is 111, not 101 or 001. And His Excellency, we want to thank you very much. We appreciate you. We know you are the talk and do president. When you see something, you know. And we want to also thank the Almighty God for giving you this wisdom to think that if a country feeds itself, that country will be counted amongst the countries that have achieved the Millennium Development Goal. So we thank you and we appreciate your efforts. You see, it's a bold step to say, I want our country to stand out to say, feed Salone. It means a lot. As you rightly said, that brings in the role of the rural farmers, who are also the players in making sure that we achieve the food security that we are yearning for. And not only food security, but nutritious food security, as you rightly said. Sierra Leone, over the years, I think we can still move and be able to feed ourselves if we practice what has been going on in the past. Because Sierra Leone, I know for sure, will be producing, processing, feed ourselves, burn some of what is remaining, and export to other countries. And we still have the capacity to do so, because as you rightly pointed out, we have the ecology that will encourage us to do that as farmers. We only need support. Remember, we are now organized as the Federation of Farmers of Sierra Leone. We want to carry our own cross. We support you, and we are going to support your drive. You just give the Ministry of Agriculture the support that is needed. As the Minister rightly said, 10%. Oh, let's clap for that. And I know His Excellency will put all modalities in place to make sure that he gives his fullest support as a government to the National Federation of Farmers of Sierra Leone, because we are very, very organized. We are going to give you a show, His Excellency. During this World Food Day, we will make sure farmers showcase what they've done, and to showcase for you and your government, donors, private sectors, And those who have passion for farming to understand that, yes, we are ever ready to give you the kind of support that we need. Please give me some time, sir. Centers around the farmers. And we are the smallholder farmers. We are ready to give you support, sir. We will support your government in your drive. And we'll put our modalities in place to make sure that we move Salone to make sure we feed ourselves and to export to other countries. So once more, I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Salone. Don't forget to be in her constituency. So, there are many more speakers who could be called, but because of time constraints at this point, we will draw curtain on this session. And just before the President leaves, I'm going to call on a few people who will join His Excellency the President to take a photo in recognition and remembrance of this day. So I am going to Mr. Holly, can you please organize the situation? I'm going to invite the Honorable Vice President to join the photo op, the Chief Minister, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Minister of Fisheries, just so everybody knows who's going to be in the photo, but this is going to happen after the national anthem. I will also call on the chairman for the presidential initiative on climate change, energy and food security, the UN resident coordinator, the African Development Bank rep, European Union, JICA, USAID, NAFSA, and IFA. Those of you who are your names, please make yourself available for the photo. And at this point,